Thank you all for joining us. This is a tutorial for the 227th Annual Convention, the third online one since the beginning of the pandemic. We did our regular November convention last year this way, and then we had a special convention to adopt the budget in April. So we're getting some good practice at this. I'm Nancy Chafin. I'm the Minister of Communications in Bishop Goff's office, and I'm joined tonight by Aaron Cameron, the Communications Associate. We're going to walk you through some of the functions that you'll need to know to participate in online convention. First, we have just completed today a video tutorial that we'd like to show you. The first 2 minutes are more about procedure and how the rules of order and parliamentary procedure work. But the next 2 minutes tells you more about how you employ those rules via Zoom and our online technology. So let me share my screen so that we can have a listen. And Aaron, if you will give me...
I'm Mark Eastham, Secretary of the Diocese. Today I'll be providing a simple overview of some of the rules of order for Diocesan Convention. Convention rules are designed to encourage an orderly, fair, and efficient process. Understanding the rules is essential to participating in discussion or debate on resolutions, amendments, and budget. So let's start with the proposed resolution. The chair of the Resolutions Committee presents a resolution. We'll use this locomotive to represent the resolution. Once it's been presented, the floor is open for discussion and the locomotive begins moving down the track. Delegates may take turns speaking in favor of or opposed to a resolution and are limited to 2 minutes each for comments. If a delegate proposes an amendment to the resolution and the convention votes to consider the amendment, all debate on the original resolution stops. Now, the only thing open to debate is the amendment itself. You can think of an amendment as a boxcar that could be hitched to the locomotive. Delegates can take turns speaking to the amendment and may vote to approve or reject the amendment. If approved, the amendment boxcar is hitched to the resolution and we can continue down the track, returning to the debate on the now amended resolution. But there's another scenario that can happen. During the debate on the amendment, a delegate may also move to amend the amendment. Think of an amendment to the amendment as boxes that could be loaded into the boxcar. If the convention agrees to consider the amendment to the amendment, you can guess what happens. All debate on the original amendment stops. The only thing up for discussion is the content of the amendment to the amendment. If an amendment to the amendment is approved, the shipping box goes on to the boxcar. Then discussion continues on the first amendment. If the amendment is approved, the boxcar is hitched to the locomotive and we move down the track until the amended resolution is voted up or down by the delegates. And if that isn't enough, a couple of other things can happen. A delegate can call the question. This is a proposal to stop debate on the current item and vote immediately. If they agree to call the question, then a vote on the current item is taken without further conversation. Remember, a delegate can call the question on a resolution, an amendment, or even an amendment to the amendment. Now that you understand the process, let's talk about how you would employ those rules in the world of a virtual meeting. At an in-person convention, those wishing to speak to a proposed resolution or amendment can line up at a microphone. At this online convention, we will use the chat function on your Zoom to get in line to speak. Here's an example. A resolution is introduced and you wish to speak to it. You type into the chat only the words speak, speak for, or speak against. This will hold your place in line and Bishop Goff will call on you. You may also type withdraw if you feel your point has been addressed by a previous speaker. Please do not type your comments into the chat. When Bishop Goff calls on you, you will receive a pop-up window inviting you to unmute. Click on it and you may begin speaking. If you wish to call the question, please do not type "call the question." Instead, type "speak for" or "speak against." And once called upon, you can say you wish to call the question. If you want to raise a point of order, you must send a direct message to Parliamentarian J.P. Causey via the chat function. Once it's time to vote, a Zoom poll will pop up on your screen and you simply click on your response. Bishop Goff will then read the results. An exception to voting via Zoom polls is elections, for which you need to access email to receive your ballot. Your ballot will only go to the email address you used to register for convention. That covers the main Zoom functions. If you encounter technical difficulty with any functions during the convention, please call our tech support line. We hope this brief overview has been helpful and allows you to participate fully in the work we are called upon to do at Diocesan Convention.
All right. So we're now going to go over a lot of what you just heard a little bit about in a little bit more detail. And so I will, let me just bring up the slideshow and share that screen. Aaron is going to start with the first little feature that Aaron, are you seeing it?
I am. Thank you, Nancy. So the first thing that you all will do when you join our Zoom convention is that we will ask you to make sure that your name on your Zoom account is the name that you go by. So your first name, last name, if you go by a certain name, please use that so that we can accurately identify you. So the way that you would do that, and you can, look along at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says participants. It has two little people outlined. And if you click on that, you will show up at the top of that window. And just like that screenshot that we have on the screen, you'll see a little button that says more. If you hover over your name, and then you can click on rename so that your name is on your Zoom account, so that when, in the event that you have something to share, Bishop Goff can call on you by name.
Great. Thank
you.
Yeah.
And then, so the next thing that will happen when you join the Zoom meeting is you'll see a poll to take quorum. So you will see a pop-up window. Nancy, there's the menu bar at the top of your screen.
Oh, okay. How do I
think if you just click on your presentation, it might go away.
No, okay.
Okay, well, we'll just make do.
Sorry.
That's okay. So you all will see a Zoom poll when you join that will ask you whether you are clergy or lay. And that will pop up right on your screen, and we will ask you to click on your order and select that so that we can make sure that we have the correct numbers for quorum so that we can hold the convention. So I'm going to launch a practice round. And so we're just asking you if this is your first time attending an online convention with us, or if you attended one of the 2 conventions over the past year. And I'll give you a little bit more time. So what will happen is that when we have polls, particularly during conversations for resolutions or amendments or the budget, Bishop Goff will ask whatever question is related to the conversation. So, if somebody calls the question, like we saw in the video, and the delegates are asked, would you like to end discussion on this resolution? You will get a poll that says, would you like to end discussion? Bishop Goff will announce that and will say, you have another, please enter your response now. She'll give you a couple of seconds, usually about a minute or so, sometimes a little bit less. So we just ask that people are prompt with their responses. And then she will give you a couple second heads up. We're going to close the poll in 5 seconds, and then we will end the poll. Now I will share the results so that you all can see. This is what she sees as she is, as people are submitting their answers. So she's seeing this with numbers, percentages, and it's likely that she won't be sharing every screen out of time considerations. It is a one-day convention when we're used to a little bit more. Well, one day for our business. But it is possible that she may choose to share the results, specifically if something is a little bit close, if there's a poll that's pretty close. So she might just share those verbally. She may share them on screen. It just depends on the situation.
All right, thank you, Erin. So the next thing that we want to talk about is how you vote during elections. For example, standing committee elections. This part is not done via Zoom polls, but rather through Election Runner, which works through your email. So you will need to be familiar with switching back and forth between your email and Zoom. Now, for some folks, if you have a separate device like your phone and you want to access your email there, you won't have to go through some of this. But for those of you who may not be familiar with switching back and forth in windows that are visible, we'll go over that a little bit here. So here we have this screen grab of yours truly, and what you will need to do is click on the little minus sign up here, and the important thing to know, that will close the window, but you will not be disconnected from the Zoom call. And then you will open your email, and you will see an email that looks like this. I can't remember, Erin, did we have any issues with people like where it went to their junk mail last time? If so, we might.
I think, it is good to double check your junk folder. If Bishop Goff says that, there's an email in your inbox and you can't find it, do check your junk folder just in case, your junk or clutter folder. Occasionally, I think it did get sorted there for some people. Yeah, thanks for thinking of that, Nancy.
Sure. And a good point of clarification, you will know that you have an email, or that you should have an email, because Bishop Goff will announce that an email has been sent. Another thing to know is that you must access the email that you use to register. We had a little bit of trouble with that last time, where people were trying to access a different email account that was not the one that we have. All we can do is send the ballots to the email with which you registered. And so it'll look like this image, and you simply click to vote. And the next screen will be a pop-up screen that, so this is the one that will actually be on Zoom this time. We're switching the quorum over to Zoom, but it's just for an example, last year, it was in Election Runner. But you click on the circle with the answer you want to provide, and then you click the green submit button, and you will see something like this. Now, after you have clicked submit, it's safe to return to Zoom. And the way that you do that is by going to the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, and you will see this blue camera, and you just click on that, and it should pop up. The Zoom with all of the little faces here will pop up for you again. So that is everything related to the Election Runner and email.
So when we are having our conversations on resolutions, amendments, and the budget, like we saw in the video, we are going to use the chat function to create the queue instead of having people line up at the mic. Of course, we don't have that line to be able to see visually who is up next to speak. So we're going to use the order in which you type speak into the chat. So we will keep track of who is up first, second, third. It is important to include for or against when you type in speak. And that is because if we have a lively discussion with multiple viewpoints, Bishop Goff likes to hear from both sides. So she will choose one person to speak for, and then the next person in line to speak against before we have another person speak for. So that is, we might have 3 people in a row to speak for an amendment, and then we might have 2 after that to speak against. So she'll just use that as a chance to, hear from each side of the conversation back and forth, instead of hearing a lot in one column and then more in the other on the other position afterwards. So we will keep track of that, and you will be called on. So when Bishop Goff calls on you and she invites you to speak, you will see this pop-up that Nancy is putting her mouse over. You'll see that in the middle of your screen. So everybody will be on a forced mute during convention. There's going to be a lot of folks on. We're expecting almost 500. So we do control when people are able to unmute. So this little pop-up will indicate that you are being invited to unmute. So when you press that blue unmute button, you will be able to speak. Like the video said, you will get 2 minutes to speak. This is a rule that we have in person and online. But when you have completed your 2 minutes of speaking, if you go longer than 2 minutes, you will be automatically muted by our system. So that is just something to keep in mind to keep your remarks succinct.
Thank you, Erin. And I did note in the chat that we can take questions at the end, and I'm going to let Erin take a peek at them because she's usually better at explaining little glitches than I am. And there are a few other things that you will want to either say or note in the chat. The first one would be, you can also type withdraw if you feel that your comments have been covered by someone who spoke before you. And then there is the call the question, which, as you heard in the video, is a motion to stop debate and go ahead and vote. And if you want to do that, it's important you should not type call the question, but rather speak for or speak against. That way we're not sort of doing a end run around people who are in line to speak. And so when you are called on by Bishop Goff, you can unmute and say, I move to call the question. And then there's also a point of order. An example would be if another delegate has begun speaking to the content of the amendment while we're still supposed to be addressing the amendment to the amendment, or other variations like that. If you wish to make a point of order, please do not type point of order yet. We ask that you first send a message in the chat to the parliamentarian, JP Causey, and he can help you in determining if a point of order needs to be made. And the way that you would do that is there's a section here in the chat window, and it says to everyone. And if you click on that little arrow, you will get some options, and the only other names you will see other than everyone are people who are actual hosts on the call, and JP Causey is one of the names that will pop up. So that is how we handle a few of those other items. All right, Erin, you want to talk about the opportunities to get more practice?
Sure. So as you all may know, we are having our open hearings on Saturday. Not only are these a good time to practice what we're going to be doing during convention, but we also will be able to discuss and hear lots of different viewpoints on the proposed resolutions, amendments, and the budget, as well as, an opportunity to get additional clarification or additional information and just ask questions about these things. So we do invite you to join us on Saturday. The times are listed on the screen, and the link will be sent later this week. We will be posting a copy of this presentation, so you will be able to watch this again if that would be helpful to you. And we will have a printout sheet available with some of the highlights of this, so that you can see this information as we are, as we're using this during convention. You can have that tip sheet to answer some of your quick questions so that you can follow along. And additionally, we will again this year have the tech support lines that is hosted by diocesan staff. So we will have that open during convention. If you're having any issues, if you are unable to get your election ballot, if you have issues connecting, if you're having any challenges at all, please do call us on the main diocesan phone number, and we will work to get that together for you. We will have the ability, because we need to have the chat open for sending points of order to JP Causey, you will see it as an option to send a direct message to me or Nancy or other diocesan staff members, but please do not use that. We will be very busy with lots of other things, making sure that convention is going smoothly. So we do ask that you use that phone number, or the email addresses that we will distribute later to contact our support staff helpline. So that will all be distributed at the beginning of convention. We'll put that in the chat so it's right there available for you. But that's about it. So that concludes the presentation portion for tonight.